You wake to the clatter of bamboo clappers beating the mountain air like a rooster of fermented sorrow. Far too early for any mortal who spent the night spooning his straw mat, a crust of frost, and at one point, a mildly vindictive rat. The cold files the edges of every breath into miniature blades. Each inhale nicks the inside of your nostrils and leaves a metallic sting on the back of your tongue. Before we shuffle another snow-caked step toward misery, spare a moment, truly, the blink of a frost-numbed eye, to tap that like glyph and subscribe to this humble corridor of history. But only if my slow, droning cadence is already lulling you toward the dream realm. Slide into the comments and chisel a note of where you're listening from and what hour your water clock claims. I'm forever amazed how night owls from Anhui to Anchorage gather under one gentle hum. Now dim the lamps. Perhaps set a fan for that soft background whoosh. And together, we'll trudge into today's ordeal. The rat, whom you privately call General Whiskers, scampers off your chest and vanishes through a gap in the brickwork, no doubt scouting for sorghum crumbs. Smart creature, he has already learned that warmth here is as scarce as an honest grain inspector. You sit up, blankets crackling with ice crystals, and take inventory of aches, shoulders twanging from yesterday's brick sledge, calves knotted like twisted rope, and a curious numbness in your left ear, where the wind appears to have taken a leisurely nibble overnight. Breakfast waits in a cauldron, the exact color of despair. Sorghum gruelling, so thin it debates whether to identify as steamed. You queue behind 50 other conscripts, each cradling a cracked clay bowl, like it holds the secret to reincarnation. The cook, a man whose ladle doubles as a moral compass, slops a meager portion and mutters, "Chew slowly. Illusions of fullness last longer." You thank him with a nod that might be a bow or a muscle spasm. Difficult to tell before sunrise, Overseer John prowls the courtyard in felt boots trimmed with rabbit fur. Actual fur, not metaphor. He taps a bamboo switch against his palm to a beat only tyrants and metronomes appreciate. At his belt hangs the tally board. Every chalk slash represents one cart of bricks your unit must deliver. Every erased, flash a promise broken. Unit 14, your gaggle of half-frozen scholars, farmers, and one reputed pickpocket owes 3 carts before midday or forfeits tonight's charcoal allotment, which is Bureaucrat shorthand for another night's spoon frost. The first cart is already waiting, sagging under a pyramid of gray bricks that glisten with overnight rime. 2 men push while 8 pull. Ropes slung across shoulders, and fibers biting through threadbare coats. The slope in front of you feels almost vertical, as though the mountain, too, resents being drafted. Snow squeals under the wheels. Ice pops beneath boot nails. You lean forward until your spine doubts its own loyalty. Halfway up, someone slips. The cart jolts. Bricks clack like angry mahjong tiles. Overseer Jang remarks the stumble with a gleeful swipe of chalk. At the crest, bricklayers stand in a haze of lime steam, plastering blocks with slurry hot enough to hiss in the air. The vapor smells of vinegar and regret searing your nostrils as it christens your fresh cuts with this sting. Mason Thu, whose vocabulary could curdle yak milk, shouts, "Still 5 degrees. No, 3 are your eyes decorative." You bite back a retort. Decorative eyes are still eyes, and you'll need them to dodge falling stone tomorrow. Cart empty. The husk rattles downhill. Toes mash the front of boots. Knees wobble. Rope burns gloom crimson through mittens. At the foot, Gate Captain's son stands with a notched spear, and more scars than rank. Watch the ridgeline, he warns. Arrow season never ends. He pats his quiver, emptier than regulation permits, then shrugs with gallows composure. Part 2 begins worse. Wind picks up, flinging ice pellets sideways with the aim of 4 celestial archers. A rope snaps mid-slope, flinging 3 bricks into the ravine and very nearly flinging you after them. Overseer Zhang bellows. Those come out of your ration. Collective groan. The Fujian smoke man beside you whispers he'd gladly push Zhang over the edge if the wall wouldn't reach down and drag him back up for overtime. Lunch horn sounds. One forlorn flute note that might be the wind's cry of sympathy. The second bowl of gruel is thinner still, though now enhanced with a swirl of bean paste that resembles pond scum. Rumor circulates. An imperial eunuch inspector rides north, tallying progress. When such inspectors appear, rations fatten magically, whips grow shy, and broken kiln lids are replaced overnight. You glance at the ravine. Perhaps those lost bricks will sprout wings before the eunuch arrives. Afternoon blurs into a repetitive symphony of lift, lean, scrape, set, curse. Overseer Zhang adds slashes to the tally, then, claiming poor penmanship, erases and rewrites more, effectively doubling tomorrow's debt. Sunlight thins, mortar stiffens to concrete, frost nips noses, hands crack and bleed. Still, you cling to rhythm, breathe, halt, survive. When he finally orders cease, twilight has swallowed the mountains. Your gang drags the cart into storage, muscles ringing like battered gongs. Back at barracks, the promised charcoal allotment is ladled. Each unit receives a palm-sized scoop, scarcely enough to warm a kitten's sigh. You crowd around the brazier, shoulders touching, sharing warmth as though heat were gossip. Conversations slide into the usual game of borrowed futures. One man vows to open a tea house when his term ends. Another swears he'll become a traveling storyteller. The pickpocket plans to retire from crime. After one grand heist involving the eunuch inspector's purse, you smile, but volunteer no dreams of your own. They weigh heavier than bricks and yield less interest. Before sleep, you step outside. The Great Wall snakes across moonlit ridges, silvered and serpentine, crenellations jagged against starlight. Somewhere beyond those ridges glimmer Mongol campfires, sparks on a midnight anvil. You wonder whether the conscripts also curse ropes and froth, building camps meant to be raised, just as your wall is meant to endure. General Whiskers trots by, tail aloft, nibbling a rogue sorghum kernel. He pauses, seems to salute with a whisker twitch, then disappears into the foundation stones. Inside, you stretch onto your mat. Charcoal embers glow like sullen rubies, fighting off the creeping cold. The wind whistles through shutter cracks with the exact timbre of a far-off cannon, as though the universe itself follows your earlier advice. Eyes heavy, you allow consciousness to fade. Tomorrow may bring lime kilns, blizzards, or bureaucrats with quills sharper than arrows. But for now, the night lowers its velvet curtain. Boredom becomes blanket. Weariness becomes pillow. And sleep, merciful, implacable sleep, annexes every ache as its least profits. The overseers claim kiln duty is a promotion. Evidence, they say, of your reliable strength and exemplary attitude. In truth, kiln duty is the polite Ming-dynasty synonym for slow cooking the workforce one lung at a time. You learn this at dawn, when a runner drags you and 9 others down a switchback path to a limestone quarry that resembles the throat of an irritated dragon. sky hangs low, bruised violet, and snow that fell 2 nights ago has melted into ankle-deep sludge that cloaks your boots in clammy cement. Even General Whiskers declines to follow, apparently aware that rats who visit lime pits come back looking like steamed dumplings without the filling. Quarry walls glow sickly white, limestone marinated in centuries of geological boredom. Your task: pack chunks from the face, feed them into dome kilns crouched along the valley floor, and keep the fires raging so the rock cooks down to quicklime. Quicklime, they explain, is the magic that glues bricks into a wall tall enough to mock heaven and sturdy enough to resist Mongol insults. Quicklime is also, the stuff that can peel flesh from bone faster than a bureaucrat can recite regulations. Breakfast is served on site. Sorghum gruel laced with extra salt to replace what you'll sweat out. Overseer Zhang distributes it personally, which feels less like generosity and more like a final meal. You spoon it in, tasting grit, either deliberate for added minerals or accidental from yesterday's shovel. As you swallow, you notice a new face, a junior eunuch inspector named Ren, cheeks plump, eyes darting. He wears silk boots and carries a lacquered tablet to record the heroic output of mortal lungs. Cutting limestone is rhythmic, almost hypnotic. Swing the iron pick, feel the jolt of the forearm, watch white shards splash like frozen foam. Yet each strike produces dust that drifts upward in lazy spirals, settling into noses, throats, and ambitions. Within an hour, your breath rasps like sand through bamboo. Dedu packs nearby, coughing up swirls so dense they look solid enough to stack as bricks. You tie a rag over your mouth. The rag quickly crusts into a chalk mask. Once you've pried loose enough blocks, you haul them on sledges, tiny cousins of the brick wagons, to the kiln mouths. Kilns themselves are domed ovens of clay, brick, squat and brooding. Their throats glow orange, and each exhalation smells of scorched eggs and funeral incense. A stoker named Old Wen, eyebrows already burnt with phantom memories, hands you a paddle of woven willow. Stir the fire, but keep your face to the side, he advises, demonstrating he practiced at lean. Otherwise, he points at his shiny brow. Goodbye, fortune. Goodbye, eyebrows. You imitate his motion. Thrust paddle, twist, withdraw. Heat punches your cheeks. You feel singe even through the rag. Sparks leap like hostile fireflies, landing on sleeves, sizzling tiny browning holes in cotton. Someone yelps. Liang, a young basket weaver, pressed into service. He has set his cup aflame. Old Wen douses him with a ladle of slop water. The eunuch inspector Ren scribbled furiously, possibly docking Liang's ration for wasting water. After 3 kiln loads, the limestone transforms into flaky, white nubs. The foreman tests a batch by spitting on it. It hisses satisfyingly. He nods approval, which in Zhang's dialect translates to double pace. You heft a wicker basket of fresh quicklime toward the ramp. Each step shakes out a ghostly powder that clings to eyelashes and crawls under collars. Where sweat meets dust, a slow alchemy begins, tingling first, then biting. By the time you reach the mortar mixing vats, you feel as though ants made of vinegar are picnicking on your ribs. Midday arrives without horn. A silence broken only when stomachs growl, louder than kiln roar. Lunch? A ladle of gruel, flecked with dried turnip. No time to chew. Zhang announces the eunuch wishes to witness maximum output hour. Workers mutter that Ren requires spectacle to justify his embroidered boots. Old Wen rolls his eyes, pulls you aside. You want to keep breathing tomorrow? Dunk rag in water. He points to a trough. Wet cloth blocks dust, maybe. You obey, wringing out the strip until water runs chocolate. The demonstration begins. Ren stands on a wooden crate for height, flanked by guards whose armor glints far cleaner than their consciences. He orders 2 teams to race. Whose kiln can roast a batch fastest? Winner earns an extra half cup of beer at dusk. Loser? No beer. And a formal apology sung aloud in front of the latrines. Pride, strangely, stirs hungrier than fear. Nadu squeezes your shoulder. We win or we dehydrate, then dives into quarry face with renewed vigor. The race is absurd. Picks clash, dust blooms, sledges skid, sparks spit. You load kiln faster than thought. Stoke with such frenzy, old Wen laughs to coughing. Heat eats your sleeves. One eyebrow singes with a distinct whoop. You glimpse Liang on rival team, face ghost white, beneath dust. Eyes watering rivulets that carve gullies down cheeks. Kiln mouths spew purple fumes. Too little airflow. Someone shouts about poisoned air. Zhang yells to keep shoveling. You win by a margin of heartbeats. Ren claps delicately, as though applauding a puppet show, and grants promised beer plus a single copper coin for morale. The losing gang slumps, hacking chalky foam, while their spokesman warbles a half-hearted apology song that rhymes latrine with sad spleen. Your victory tastes of bitterness. The dust has scoured your throat so thoroughly that the beer feels like vinegar. Afternoon clouds gather, low, bruised, and full of mischief. Rain is a mixed omen, good for lungs, lethal for quicklime that reacts explosively with water. Foremen bark to cover kiln vents with oiled cloth, but a sky opens faster than orders travel. Fat drops splatter dust. Sudden plumes of steam shoot from cooling piles of lime. Liang slips, drops a basket. Clumps hiss and pop like angry dumplings. A blast of caustic spray peppers his bare calves. Blisters bloom instantly. Screams punch through kiln roll. Tia, escorted here for accidents, wraps his legs in wet willow bark while muttering curses at quartermasters who issue shorts instead of full leggings. Rain intensifies. Water cascades from quarry lip, carving rivulets through lime heaps. You help old Wen tilt a bamboo screen over kiln mouth, but a gust flips it, dousing live coals. An eruption of acrid steam drives everyone back. Zhang whirls, switch raised, ready to flay whoever dropped the barrier, but stops when Ren steps forward, coughing violently. Silk boots now speckled with corrosive slurry. The eunuch's once plump cheeks redden. Tears streak. He turns to overseer, cease firing. Lives outweigh quotas. Zhang's jaw drops. Contradiction of royal schedule sacrilege. But guards echo Ren. A begrudging stand-down commences. Storm settles into mist by dusk. Fires banked. Kilns sigh like tired beasts. Workers straggle to the mess canopy, where merit ladles diluted beer. Victory reward cut in half because half the casks diverted to wash Ren's robes. You sip foam, taste smoke, and find a numbness where tongue once lived. That night, the barracks brim with bitter humor. Dadu draws a charcoal sketch of Ren's melted boot. Laughter ricochets off rafters. Someone presents the singed eyebrow you lost earlier, claiming it as lucky talisman. You tuck it behind the ear until it blows away. In this wind, even luck refuses to linger. Later, lying on mat, skin tingling from alkaline kisses, you consider the irony. You spent a day creating glue that binds the wall, yet each breath threatened to unbind the glue of your own lungs. Outside, General Whiskers scampers along windowsill, fur dusted white, like miniature snowdrift. He sneezes, a squeak of protest, then disappears into safer shadows. Your eyes drift toward ceiling beams where soot writes invisible runes. Tomorrow's tasks are unknown. Perhaps return to brick hauling. Perhaps more kiln frenzy. Perhaps standing guard with crossbows missing actual arrows. Yet the fan-like whistle of wind outside reminds you of that unseen audience sliding toward sleep on the other side of time. If your misery can serve as lullaby, then let the lime dust swirl through sentences and settle gently on their dreams. You close stinging eyelids. The lost eyebrow stings, lungs burn, muscles pulse with phantom heat. But sleep presses cool palms against your cheeks. Somewhere in dream corridors, quicklime loses its appetite, and bricks lift themselves. Until morning, at least, you are weightless. Another fragile victory, scored between lungfuls and lost eyebrows. The moment your feet touch the frozen courtyard, you sense betrayal brewing in your boots. Yesterday's lime still grazes the raw scrapes on your wrists, but Overseer Zhang insists you're too rested for kiln duty again. Today, he declares, Unit 14 will demonstrate exemplary traction efficiency by hauling the new iron-shod sledge. Prototype, untested, rumored to bite. Prototype is generous. The contraption looks like someone hammered garden rakes to an ox yoke, then forgot the ox. 2 runners of black iron gleam beneath a plank wide enough for 40 bricks. Curved like malicious smiles at each end. Leather loops dangle invitingly. Foot straps, Jack explains, so your gang can walk backward uphill while pulling forward. An exercise in physics and fate. Breakfast provides no confidence. Sorghum gruel, now gritty with quicklime dust, that drifted in overnight. Merit shrugs. Free minerals. You swallow chalky mouthfuls, while General Whiskers gnaws an abandoned radish top nearby. Even the rat keeps one eye on the sledge, as if assessing whether the steel beast might eat rodents for appetizers before moving to human toes. The day's mission: drag 3 loads of bricks from Valley Depot up the goat track, a name earned honestly by animals wiser than humans. Snakes along a cliff face, narrow enough that one misstep tumbles cargo into oblivion or Mongolia, depending on wind. At the summit, bricklayers will fit the cargo into the wall's newest parapet. If the schedule holds, you and your comrades will still have time to patrol at dusk, because apparently 23 hours of productivity leaves room for improvement. Jank claps hands, counting heads. Dedu buckles the lead pulling harness, muttering a prayer to every minor deity of joints and ligaments. You secure a middle rope, testing knots, while Liang, legs still swaddled in willow bark from yesterday's lime burns, takes rear guide position. Old Wen, eyebrowless kiln sage, volunteers to shove from behind with a pole, claiming he's too combustible to walk near iron edges. First load, 40 bricks stacked pyramid style. Weight about the same as your collective optimism. Zhang waves bamboo switch. You lean forward. Ropes tighten. Leather foot loops dig into arches. Iron runners hiss across hard-packed snow. At ground level, the sledge behaves. Heavy. Yes, but obedient. The trouble starts where ground forgets to stay level. Approaching the goat track, the path tilts skyward, like a scroll being unrolled for divine inspection. Ice patches simmer beneath a veneer of wind-blown dust. You plant heels, pull. Muscles cuss in 3 dialects. The iron noses catch edges of embedded stones. Each jolt rattles vertebrae like dice in a gambler's cup. Lidu shouts cadence, heave. Slide. Curse. Repeat. Halfway up, the track narrows to the width of a paranoid eunuch's grin. To your left, a sheer drop blurred by wisps of valley mist. To your right, a cliff wall sculpted by a reckless avalanche. Here the sledge reveals its appetite. One of the iron rims bites a hidden rock, jerks sideways, and lunges for your feet. You hop, barely clearing the runner's serrated lip. Behind you, Leon isn't so lucky. Iron scrapes his boot, causing him to yelp and twist. The load shifts, bricks clatter, balance teeters. Old Wen rams his pole against the cliff to counter-push. Sparks fly. Dedu orders dig heels. You plunge boots into crusted snow, rope burning palms. The sledge halts a mere thumb breadth from the edge. Bricks totter overhead like drunk courtiers, then settle. Hearts resume beating. Liang inspects boot. Leather sliced, toes intact, dignity beaten. He tightens the strap and nods grimly. Zhang, observing from safer footing below, marks something on tally board. Likely a deduction for style points. Ren the eunuch inspector appears as well, cloaked in lamb's wool and holding a handkerchief over his nose. Splendid demonstration of adaptive hauling. He calls, voice muffled. You wonder if he'll know how adaptive your toes were in avoiding amputation. The rest of the ascent proceeds in choppy increments. Each step a wager, each breath a loan. When you crest the summit, bricklayers greet you with sarcastic applause. That sounds suspiciously like real gratitude. They've been waiting 2 hours with no materials, practicing mortar-slinging pantomime. Together, they slide bricks off plank. Mason Lu inspects, finds only 3 chipped. Acceptable. He grunts, as though you delivered dumplings, not half a mountain. Descending with empty sledge should be easy. Gravity, however, becomes a comedian. The iron runners, now warmed by friction, glide over snow like rice grains on oil. The sledge accelerates. Foot loops useless. You sprint backward, trying not to outrun your own ankles. Dedu yells, "Brake!" Old Wen plunges his pole into snow. Pole snaps. Sledge lunges faster. Only when the path widens at base do ropes slacken, and inertia dies. You collapse, panting clouds. Ren claps politely again, jotting notes about efficient downhill logistics. Load 2 starts with complication. Goat Track's narrow section, now polished into lethal sheen by previous run. Zhang sprinkles sand, but wind whips it away. He shrugs at you. Balance then. Bricks stacked higher this round, 60 at least. You suspect math is being weaponized. First incline, muscles quake, but teamwork holds. Narrow turn. Iron runner slips outward. Brick tower sways like bamboo in typhoon. Leon digs heels. Still injured. You lean left, praying to any deity listening. A single brick topples, plummets off cliff and smashes somewhere below, echoing like a warning gong. Ren gasps, but scribbles. Maybe he'll voice the Emperor for one missing brick. Disaster strikes 20 paces ahead. A rogue gust pushes snow up Upper Bluff. Powder cascades on the track, coating ice with fresh deception. The sledge fishtails. Runner bites again, lunging at your toes with renewed appetite. Dedu's harness. Buckle snaps. Cheap bronze splits. He stumbles sideways. Rope slack whips around your waist, yanking you forward. For one horrifying blink, you hover at cliff edge, watching clouds swirl beneath. Then Old Wen, miraculously quick, grabs your collar, hauls you back. The sledge slams against inner wall, iron screeching, bricks vomiting off plank like gambler's dice onto a tavern floor. Silence follows. Thick as mortar. 5 bricks lost to abyss. 3 shattered on path. 1 teetering on Young's shoulder. Your chest heaves, ears ring. Zhang scrambles up, face thunder purple. Sabotage of Imperial property, he roars. Ren raises his hand. Accident. Ice. No environmental hazard. Zhang's fury deflates under bureaucratic override. He redirects anger. Replace lost bricks from tomorrow's quota, he snarls at you. With half the load gone, the ascent continues. Misery now flavored with dread. At the summit, masonry crew counts bricks, scowls, then shrugs. They'll patch gaps with anything, including frozen despair. Liu mutters about bean-curd strength labor, but his voice is soft. He saw the near plunge. The third load arrives later. Dusk shading ridges, violet. Wind stills, ominously gentle, as though nature itself holds breath to watch finale. Bricks piled moderate this time. Perhaps Ren intervened. The climb hurts, but flows. Near the perilous turn, you spy something new. Fresh pine branches strewn across ice. Traction gifts from unknown ally. Likely gate captain's son, whose soldiers also hate collecting mangled workers. You nod thanks to unseen benefactor and cross without incident. At summit, final bricks thud into neat stacks. When ropes drop from your shoulders, pain floods limbs like thawing water. Ren approaches, offers a porcelain flask. Real rice wine. For exemplary perseverance, he says. You and Dedu share tiny sips. The alcohol searing dust from throats. Old Wen toasts, absent eyebrows, declares day of victory because everyone still counts to 20 with toes. Back at camp, Zhang reduces whip brandishing to half-hearted threats. Even he looks drained. Merritt ladles thicker gruel tonight. Rumor says Eunuch Inspector ordered extra grain. Around Brazier, tails inflate. Bricks weighed twice normal. Cliff grew steeper. Mongol eagles tried to sabotage ropes. Laughter bubbles. Hesitant, but real. Liang removes boot. Reveals bruised toes. Turning plumb. Thea delivers sage compress and a joke about keeping toes for chopstick practice. Before sleep, you visit cliff edge alone. Moonlight paints the wall in ghost silver. Iron runners glint below. Far down the ravine, shattered bricks lie like teeth from some stone monster. You drop a pebble, hear it clatter, echo of earlier terror. General Whiskers appears, balancing on parapet, whiskers twitching approval. You kept your toes, he whispered. He squeaks, a sound that might be applause. In barracks, embers glow. Yedu already snores, clutching harness buckle as talisman. You ease onto bed, feet throbbing but present. Wind through shutters resembles that gentle fan you once promised unseen listeners. Perhaps somewhere, someone drifts to sleep on the lullaby of your near disasters. If so, may their dreams spare them iron runners with a taste for phalanges. Your eyelids sink. Behind them, the prototype sledge morphs into a dragon, flying over valleys, bricks for scales, rope for spine. In green, you ride it, not pulling, steering, away from walls, over rivers, toward a dawn where no one bleeds for architecture. Reality will drag you back at sunrise, but tonight, toes intact, you soar. Were once carried instead of burdened. Sunrise tiptoes into camp, wearing a thin gauze of mist, as though reluctant to disturb the hundreds of bruised bodies sprawled across straw mats. The first sound you process is Dedu's groan, a low cello scrape. That means his calf cramped again. The second is your own spine clicking, like abacus beads tallying interest on yesterday's debt. For a moment, despair tries to pry your eyes back shut. Then broom bristles rasp across the doorway. Overseer Zhang's favorite dawn flourish. No horns, no clappers, just a stiff broom scratching the frost. Each stroke spelling "Get up now" in the alphabet of misery. Breakfast is issued outside the kiln shed because rain turned the mess tent into a lagoon. Merritt's cauldron has upgraded its recipe. The sorghum gruel now includes diced garlic scales, a fragrance both appetizing and guaranteed to haunt the breath of every conversation. UQ, pole extended, while General Whiskers darts between boots stealing stray morsels. The rat seems plumper, perhaps from your collective dropped rations. Envy tinges the air. Overseer Zhang announces assignments mid-gulp. Today, your gang will shuttle mortar along the parapet, lug earthen pails of quicklime slurry from mixing vats up narrow stair towers, then pass them hand to hand along the wall's crown. Rhythm, boys, he instructs, tapping tallyboard. Mortar must stay warm, or bricks refuse to bond. Like wives hearing gambling debts, few chuckle. Most swallow garlicky paste and brace knees. The mixing yard sits behind the east watchtower, where lime pits bubble like cauldrons in a demon's tea house. Steam rolls off the slurry, carrying wafts of vinegar humiliation. Two workers in oiled capes push paddle wheels, keeping the soup from crusting. You grab a wood-handled pail, half a man height, tall, iron heat, heavier than every hope unborn, and you feel its heat sear through mittens. 20 paces to stare, 30 steps up, 15 paces along wall. That route becomes the metronome of your morning. Passing buckets feels deceptively civilized. Each man spaced a shoulder's width apart, exchanging a hot payload with a grunt and nod. Above, the sky clears to brittle blue, the kind that pretends to be warm until wind knifes sideways. Mortar droplets splash onto your sleeves, biting cold skin like acid snowflakes. Across the parapet, Liang limps but maintains tempo. His toe wounds throb purple through thin socks. By mid-morning, Walltop bustles like a drunken procession. Bricklayers prowling, soldiers pacing with unloaded crossbows, inspectors scribbling quotas. Captain Sun casts an eye north where distant hills shimmer. Steps too quiet, he mutters. You follow his gaze, but see only haze. Still silence there, feels as heavy as mortar. Here, the lunch horn, an exhausted calm, leads at scene. Buckets clatter down, that flex cramped fingers. Merritt's apprentices hear heffing cauldrons on poles, the aroma of fresh sorghum, kneading wind's cutlass. You sit on the wind-sheltered side of the Crenellation, legs dangling into interior courtyard 30 cubits below. Dadu drops beside you, passing a chunk of something suspiciously radish shape. Found in the ashes, he grins. You chew. It's half raw, half charred, but tastes like promotion. Around you, conversations bloom in low tones. Liang shares rumor. Eunuch Inspector Ren has requested additional funds for winter cloaks after observing yesterday's near disasters. Old Wen cackles. Funds will sprout wings before cloaks land in our hands. Another man argues. Ren has sympathy. Wen retorts. Sympathy buys nothing but extra lines in a scroll. Talk shifts to sabotage prospects. Ahotep, the rope team leader who nearly struck days ago, joins with careful glance over shoulder. He outlines an idea. If conscripts rotate passes of mortar slower than Brick said, bosses can't detect lag until evening tally. A miniature strike disguised as clumsy timing. Some nod, others fear Zhang's brew. You scrape last gruel from bowl and notice Captain Sun approaching. His face is shade heavier than usual. Mongol scouts sighted at Wolf Pass, he says quietly. No attack, just measuring distance. That explains his earlier fretting. He warns bricklayers to reinforce merlins, tells mortar chain to stay alert for signal drums. Panic glints, but does not ignite. Fear has too many bills already. Afternoon sees tempo rise. Junk, sensing slack, prowls with switch, tapping wrists too slow in task. Old Wen misjudges a handoff. Bucket lip clips his shin. Splash painting cap blister white. Quicklime fizzles. Cloth sizzles. He hobbles aside, but Zhang snarls. Back in line. Wall first. Legs later. You offer Wen your rag. Douse burn with snow scraped from parapet. He nods gratitude between clenched molars. Hunger creeps back sooner than expected. Garlic-scape fragrance has faded into acid reflux. Wind shifts northerly, bearing scents of wood smoke and something musky. Step. Horse, maybe. Soldiers hustle along wall, swapping blunt arrows for real ones. A drumbeat, slow and distant, echoes from watchtower. 1 strike. Scout confirmed. 2. No immediate assault. Only 1 beat thrums. Relief tastes metallic. Early dust paints the mountains crimson. Buckets empty. Bricklayers flap final trowels. Then a shout. Leon loses balance, his limp misjudging parapet edge. He pinwheels arms, bucket flying overside. You lunge, snag tunic collar full weight. Gloomy sludge sprays, sizzling on stone. Your shoulders protest, but Liang regains footing. Bucket explodes below like an angry teapot. Zhang storms over, switch raised. Before he lashes, Captain Sun barks, arrow scouts. Save you. Zhang hesitates, and in that breath, the day's last lash is spared. Sun orders everyone off wall, before twilight blinds archers. Buckets stacked empty. You and Dedu descend stairs on rubber knees. In mixing yard, fires die down. Lime pits glow like angry coals that are covered with boards to conserve heat. Snow begins drifting again, gentle as apology. Workers gather near fire barrels, thawing ulcered hands. Merit surprises all. A thin stew of millet spiked with miracle of miracles, bits of fatty pork. Word spreads that Ren donated his private provisions to maintain workforce vigor. Cynics claim he traded rancid bean paste, but broth warms guts regardless. Near the brazier, conversation picks at the scab of Revolt. Ahotep tallies successes. Slower bucket chains cost half a tally more. Inspectors blame cold, not sabotage. Tomorrow, they'll stretch gaps further. They do deposits, forming an overnight committee to draft polite grievances, beer rations, proper footwear, rotation off go-track death runs. Old Wen snorts. Scribes line bird cages with grievances. Still, hope germinates. Liang, foot prop, sketches a caricature of Zhang, with broom for mustache, lime bucket for hat. Laughter erupts. Even Captain Sun smirks before walking patrol. You carve a small star into the plank wall. A secret tally of days survive, nose intact. Before bed, you wander to northern parapet. Snowflakes melt on warm mortar joints, releasing faint lime hiss, a lullaby of chemical spite. Beyond, Mongol territory lies dark. You imagine their scouts around campfire, telling parallel tales how great wall stones crave hooves for breakfast. The shared absurdity of mortal labor under indifferent skies feels almost comforting. Back in barracks, embers glow. Garlic-scapped breath mingles with smoke. General Whiskers curls on your blanket, plump belly rising. You stroke fur with mortar-cracked fingers. Dedu rolls over, mutters, "Tomorrow, less rope, more voice." You nod, though he can't see, and whisper that if voices fail, at least toes still tap. Sleep drapes heavy, muscle deep. Dreams smear mortar and mist, buckets and bells. At some point, the great wall tilts into a banquet table. Overseer John serves gruel with silver ladle, apologizes, replaces it with pork, apologizes, replaces again. Endless loop until General Whiskers steals entire pot. You wake laughing, quietly, because laughter still feeds something neither sorghum nor silent curses ever will. Outside, snow thickens, blanketing stones like forgiveness. Arrow scouts retreat, whip rests, lion-hearted wall doses. You close eyes once more, soothed by snow hush and by the notion that even titanic projects pause, however briefly, under a quilt of white. In that pause, men breathe. In that breath, rebellion learns rhythm, and in rhythm, hope cleaves mortar, finer than lime. The morning sun has only begun to warm the frost-crusted parapets when a messenger on a foaming pony arrives, silk pennant snapping like an accusation. The imperial eunuch inspector, no less than Grand Chamberlain Gao Shosin of the Inner Robe Treasury, is due at midday to audit progress. In a single breath, the entire camp descends into a frenzy, somewhere between wedding preparation and plague hysteria. Overseer Zhang hurls his broom aside, grabs the tally board, and immediately starts erasing yesterday's shortfalls with a damp sleeve, leaving smears that look suspiciously like bloodstains. He barks orders so quickly, even his bamboo switch seems confused about who to strike first. Captain Sun dispatches runners to polish every bronze buckle in sight, while Merritt's kitchen crew is told to conjure a banquet out of turnips and thin air. Your gang, Unit 14, is reassigned from mortar, carrying to aesthetic enhancement, which turns out to mean scrubbing pigeon droppings from Crenellations with rags dipped in half-frozen water. Leader mutters that imperial eunuchs can smell bird droppings from 10 li away, some sort of palace-trained scent acuity. Liang limps along behind, wielding a bucket full of damp sand like it's the imperial jade seal. Old Wen keeps guard with a charred broomstick, waving away any pigeon contemplating fresh insults. With every gust of wind, you taste lime dust, garlic-scape breath, and the metallic tang of terror. Below, Macy's mortar bricks at 3 times normal speed, slapping joints so sloppy the wall might dissolve in the next rain. But presentable photographs, should cameras exist, would show rapid progress. Scribes sprint between crews, updating clay tablets with imaginary numbers. One tablet claims Unit 7 laid 2,000 bricks yesterday. You personally saw them sneak off early to gamble with goat knuckles. Zhang rationalizes this as anticipated retroactive achievement. You laugh too loudly. Zhang snaps the switch near your ear and demands silence or creative accounting. Around mid-morning, a trumpet squeals. The eunuch's advance guard crests the ridge. 20 banner carriers, each draped in vermilion silk, stomp through the slush. Their boots leave bloody smears of dye on snow. Behind them rumbles a sedan chair the size of a provincial treasury, borne by 8 unfortunate servants whose knees wobble like reed boats in typhoon season. Atop the chair sits Grand Chamberlain Gao, lips pursed, cheeks powdered snow white, eyes narrowed to calligraphy, slits of disapproval. A parasol of kingfisher feathers shields his head from non-existent sunbeams. At his side hangs a scroll tube no bigger than a thumb, rumored to contain a decree authorizing instant execution or instant promotion, depending on which. Procession halts at the main gate. Captain Sun kneels so fast his armor clanks like drop cutlery. Zhang imitates, though his joints protest. You and the rest of Unit 14 kneel half feet late. Hoping the eunuch's eyesight matches his rumored constipation, Chamberlain Gao descends with exaggerated delicacy, accepting a lavender-scented handkerchief from an attendant before his shoes touch the ground. He surveys the scene, nostrils flaring as though sampling vintage misery. Rise, he chirps, voice high, reedy, capable of decapitating confidence. The inspection begins. 2 scribes trail Gao carrying bamboo clipboards. Another pair flutters abacuses like war fans. He first inspects kiln yard, finds lime pits covered, coals banked neatly, and nods approval that bears the emotional warmth of Frostbite. At the brick depot, he delicately taps a random block with ivory fingernails, listens to ring, and decrees the brick moderately competent. Everyone exhales as though complimented. Then he turns toward the goat track. I wish to evaluate vertical supply logistics, he states. Zhang pales 3 shades, since yesterday's missing bricks still lie smashed in that ravine. Emergency theater ensues. Waiting in shadows, you and Dedu receive clandestine orders. Restage a hauling demonstration, but choose a safer, shorter incline. Bricks must appear plentiful, ropes unfrayed, iron sledge immaculate. Liang and Old Wen scuttle to scrub rust stains. You polish the runners with a rag soaked in rice wine until your fingers sting. Gao ascends a lookout platform, silk sleeves fluttering, signals for the show to commence. Your heart pounds as you and 7 others stride into harness, lift the loaded sledge, and begin what Zhang calls heroic ascent. The chosen path is a newly sanded lane tucked between parapet segments, steep enough to impress, wide enough not to kill. On cue you chant, pull, push, glory. The bricks clack in time. Chamberlain Gao nods twice, then unfurls a lacquer fan painted with jade rabbits and peers over the edge. Acceptable orthodoxy of effort, he pronounces. A scribe scratches the phrase onto bamboo. You wonder if it will translate into extra beer or just a footnote in some dusty register. But bureaucratic fate demands drama. As you near the summit, a gust of rogue wind catches one of Gao's feather attendants, blowing bright plumes into the air. The attendant, terrified, lunges and collides with a soldier who stumbles into the sledge's flank. The iron runner skids, bricks shift, and the entire load threatens to avalanche down the slope toward Gao's embroidered boots. Time slows. You plant heel, Dedu yanks rope sideways. Liang, despite limp, dives to wedge a chalk under the runner. Bricks shudder, then freeze mid-slide, like unruly toddlers caught by stern parent. A single block slips free, bounces, and lands with a puff of snow at Gao's toes, leaving a chalk kiss on his silk shoe. Silence petrifies the hillside. Gao lowers fan, studies the brick as if it were a rude insect. Overseer Zhang collapses into a bow so deep his forehead digs a hole in snow. Captain Sun grips sword hilt, calculating whether to strike brick or himself. You stand frozen, rope burning hands, awaiting whip, or worse, scroll decree. Gao bends, picks up brick, rotates it delicately, and taps edge. He says. Corners remain unharmed. This attests to superior firing temperature. He smiles. A thin, precise line. Commendable resilience. The collective exhale could launch a kite. Gao returns brick to Zhang. Instructs him to show Emperor how peasants craft stability. Zhang mumbles gratitude, eyes shimmering disbelief. Sun orders servants to escort Gao to banquet tent. Now, festooned turnip sculptures, meant to resemble loaded blossoms. Gao retires, already bored, While Eunuch dines on imaginary luxuries, crisis management kicks in. Scribes hurry to update tally boards. Missing ravine bricks are recategorized as ceremonially offered to reinforce Valley Foundation. The smashed quicklime of 2 days ago becomes pre-aged mortar reserves. Ren, quietly observing from behind a snow mound, whispers praise for your unit's dynamic adaptability. He slips you a thin slip of rice paper, promising an increased charcoal ration this week. A reward payable once Imperial entourage departs. Banquet over, Gao performs one last tour. He stops beside lime pits, dips finger into bucket of cooling slurry, smears a small cross on a fresh brick, and declares, "This wall shall outlive Mongol ambitions." A dramatic line evidently lifted from palace speeches. A scribe immortalizes it at once. Gao then hands Captain Sun a crimson ribbon to tie on the nearest watchtower, symbol of imperial favor. The ribbon flaps like a rose petal pinned to a grave marker. Sun escorts entourage back to Sedan. Trumpets blare, banners billow. Attendants gather feathers. Gao ascends, fans himself, and leaves trailing a smell of jasmine for job security. Only when procession vanishes beyond ridge does entire camp slump like collapsed scaffolding. John begins to laugh, frank, half hysterical, and you realize it's the first genuine laugh he's emitted in months. He points at you. Daddy, Leon, old one. Promotion, he wheezes, then clarifies, meaning fewer whips, maybe extra guard. Everyone cheers. Even Captain Sun cracks a smile. Evening falls with uncharacteristic gentleness. The charcoal ration arrives early, more generous, true to Ren's note. Merritt unveils a cauldron of sorghum, thickened with goat tallow, pilfered from Gao's leftover banquet. The aroma sends spirits soaring. Bowls clink, garlic breath mingles with relief. Around the brazier, a hotep tallies how today's near catastrophe subtly proved workers' leverage. Without skilled hands, even eunuchs risk brick-to-boot humiliation. Plans grow bolder. Perhaps propose rotating rest days. Perhaps stash spare bricks to negotiate. Old Wen cautions. Walls listen, but no one's ears are sober. You step outside, bowl in hand, steam curling under moon. The crimson ribbon flutters on watchtower, like a blood tongue tasting wind. Beyond, the great wall gleams faintly, every brick reflecting slivered moonlight, a spine of stone across sleeping mountains. General Whiskers scampers onto your boot, sniffing goat tallow residues. You nudge Crumb his way. He devours with zeal. Tonight, you'll sleep without expectant broom scratches at dawn. Jang promised a delayed horn to celebrate imperial commendation. 3 extra breaths of morning warmth feel like stolen treasure. You drain the last of wet gruel, savoring fat-coating throat, and whisper thanks to the brick that dared smudge soap. Sometimes rebellion hides in accidents. Sometimes salvation wears the grin of a unit pressed by corner integrity. Back at barracks, Dedu hums victory tune while Liang sketches that crimson ribbon looped into a lopsided heart. Old Wen hangs burnt broomstick over doorway, like dragon bone trophy. You lie down, eyelids heavy, muscles softer than usual. The wind outside carries distant trumpet echoes, now muted, almost lullaby. As sleep eases in, you picture tomorrow's lighter dawn and wonder how long before another scroll arrives, another inspector, another brick with opinions. But for this night, your mind drifts behind crimson ribbon, where walls forget whips, and every breath smells faintly of goat, tallow, triumph. Your reward for yesterday's imperial triumph arrives at sundown in the form of a frost-stiff leather helmet. a half-functional crossbow, and an assignment scroll that reads, Unit 14, Second Night Watch, North Bastion to Mulberry Tower. Celebration apparently means trading bricks for boarding, mortar for moonlight, and garlic skate breath for air so cold it could pickle lungs. Overseer Jang presents the gear with theatrical benevolence. No broom, no whip, just a grin that says, if wolves chew your femurs, please scream quietly. His Majesty prefers silence after dark. Supper is thicker than usual. Sorghum porridge ladled over diced turnip leaves. Yet you taste none of it, distracted by the clank of borrowed armor plates slipped over your coat. Yedu elbows you. Better metal than lime, he whispers. Liang, toes bundled in fresh rags, tests his quiver and discovers only 3 bolts, each more warped than Zhang's ethics. Old Wen, promoted to torchbearer because eyebrows remain expendable, fastens a wick to a bamboo pole and hums a bawdy Kilns song about flames, licking tender parts. Full dark, settles early. The moon, a thin sickle, hangs above the wall like a half-forged blade. Snow crunches under boots as Unit 14 climbs the stone stairs. Wind sneaks between crenellations with a predator's sigh, lifting loose strands of hair that freeze moments later. At the bastion, Captain Sun greets you with weary nod at the parchment roster. 4 hours patrol, he says, voice sandpapered by cold. Then torch duty atop Mulberry Tower till false dawn. Rings bell and step shadows move. He gestures beyond the wall. Blackness, as vast as forgotten debts. You shoulder the crossbow, gripping stock until fingers numb. The weapon's string, frayed from years of disregard, creaks like an old door hinge each time you test tension. Yedu volunteers to carry reserve bolts. Liang takes a hand drum, thin hide stretched taut, meant to signal alarm if your tongue freezes. Old Wen's torch sputters alive, casting a jittery light that exaggerates every snow ridge into a crouching raider. The patrol begins. Boots tread a rhythm. Punch whisper, punch whisper. Above, stars burn with cruel clarity, each one a pinhole in the world's frigid curtain. You exhale mist, half expecting words to crystallize mid-air. Behind you, the great wall stretches away under moonshine, an endless spine, vertebrae of masonry glistening like scales. For once, there are no brick wagons, no lime kilns, no Eunuch demands. Just the wall, the night, and the faint hum of blood in chilled ears. Half a league along, you pass the watch alcove, where 2 southern conscripts huddle over a charcoal brazier. They share fermented bean paste, smuggled inside hollow bricks. One offers the dab on a fingertip. You accept, tongue tingling with salt, secret camaraderie. He warns of wolves sighted at dusk. Shadows darted between scrub, eyes green as river reeds. They smell weaklings, he chokes. Then peers at Liang's rabbit. Nobody laughs. Beyond the alcove, the terrain drops steep. The wall towers above ravine depths. Old One raises torch. Light reveals claw-like silhouettes of dead hinds clinging to cliff. Wind funnels upward, howling through crenel gaps. Wolf song or stone echo. Impossible to tell. Yedu mutters a proverb. Better meet a hungry wolf than an ambitious eunuch. You nod, though tonight both possibilities feel unwholesome. At midpoint, moonlight brightens, spotlighting something peculiar. Frost feathers on the parapet, shaped like calligraphy strokes. Liang pauses, traces a finger over the fragile shapes. Looks like poem, he says, voice soft. Indeed, patterns resemble characters. Mountain, moon, longing. Classic frontier lament. Who etched them? Nature? Or some sleepless builder before you? Either way, poetry in ice feels like rebellion disguised as weather. The line halts when Old Wen's torch snuffs, slain by gust. Darkness clamps shut, a lid over senses. Someone curses. You strike flint. Sparks flee. Fail. Fingers stiffen. Finally, Idu produces ember from pocket pin. Charcoal ember, stolen from brazier. Torch flares again, revealing fresh tracks in snow. Paw prints. Four-toed. Wide. Wolves. Captain Sun's words echo. You heft crossbow, though your 3 bolts feel like apologies, rather than weapons. The patrol reaches Mulberry Tower, so named for a scraggly tree that once grew beside, but now stands as bleached stump. A stone stair spirals the roof platform. Up top, wind scours merciless. Brass bells hang from beams. A signal lantern sits inside clay shield. Your duty. Circle platform. Peer into brush, and not freeze faster than stone. Old Wen claims windbreak behind Crenellations. Liang sits, massaging foot. You and Dedu pace the perimeter. Crossbow half-cocked. Minutes crawl. Stars pivot slowly. Somewhere below, a wolf howls. A long note. Mournful. Answered by another farther east. The valley amplifies the duet into choir. Liang grips drum. His knuckles whiten. All between howls, Dedu whispers, "Your poem's free solid enough to keep." You recall Frost characters and consider carving verses onto brick with chisel tomorrow. Should morning exist, conversation drifts to homes. Dedu's mother weaving bamboo mats near Fuzhou Harbor. Liang's sister, who sells river carp pastries. Old Wen describes kiln workers composing limericks about lime, because humor is cheapest medicine. Each story fogs air, hovers, then shatters into ice dust. An hour passes. Torch guttering. You offer to fetch fresh oil. Storage jars beside stairs. As you pour, something flickers at corner of vision. Movement along tree line. You freeze. Dedu notices, follows gaze. 2 dark shapes glide between bushes. Crossbow up, you squint. Too small for men. Too low to ground for horses. Wolves, for sure. Liang raises drum, but waits. Shapes creep closer, until moonlight glints off eyes. One wolf steps onto snow pad below wall, sniffs air. Another trots behind, lean ribs visible through fur. They pause, gaze up, perhaps testing stone scent. No threat to wall, but to unburied trash they could linger. Draw more. Captain Sun ordered watch to ring bell only for raiders, not wildlife. Still, Canning gallops heartwards. Dedu loads bolt, aims. Wolves twitch ears but remain. Bowstring vibrates. Bolt shoots. Thunk to snow short of target. Wolves blink, unimpressed. Then slink away, tails low. Breath releases. Old Wen chuckles. Even wolves know bricks taste terrible. Torch renewed. Quiet returns. Liang unwraps foot. The drumstrap chafed blistered. You share rag, dab snowmelt. In gratitude, he pulls folded scraps from sleeve. A poem penned in fine ink. Characters compact. Found in ration sack, he explains. Probably lost note from literate mason. He recites haltingly. Stone above clouds, mortared beneath frost. Heart wanders home, but wall forbids cost. Silence follows, heavier than wind. Old Wen wipes eye. Dedu exhales a sigh, shaped like hope. You suggest hiding poem inside wall. A secret cornerstone message for future finders. All agree. Liang copies lines on thinner scrap. Original he keeps. You slip copy into mortar gap under parapet stone. Seal with snow. If wall endures, so will script. If it crumbles, poem will ride rubble down valley, escaping duty at last. False dawn glows pale green along eastern ridge. Your shift ends. Captain Sun relieves you with fresh squad, nodding approval at calm report. Wolves sighted, no contact. He eyes crossbow bolt missing, raises brow. Dedu shrugs. Sun grins faintly. Descending stairs, legs tremble from cold more than fatigue. Inside Tower Keep, brazier roars, off-duty watch share heated millet, steam fogs frosted hair. You thaw fingers, each prickling return of sensation, singing tiny agony songs. Back at barracks, sunrise meets retreating stars. You collapse on mat, armor clanking floor. General Whiskers curls by head, fur radiant of stolen warmth. Before sleep, you replay night's images. Frost calligraphy, wolf eyes, poem tucked in stone. Great Wall still stands, but within it, tiny rebellions sprout. Verses, jokes, shared bean paste. Fortifications hold enemies out. They cannot bar imagination in. Eyelids close. In dream, wolves pace along the parapet, reading poems aloud in new voices, while eunuch inspectors bow to their literary critique. The wall hums lullaby, mortar line pulsing like script. Somewhere in distance, fan plays soft white noise. For unseen listener, drifting to sleep, Great Warrior Patrol after the night. Both boring and alive, snow begins as a rumor whispered by the northern peaks, no larger than gnat wings swirling against dawn. By the time Overseer Jang finishes counting shovels for the day's quarry shift, the rumor has grown into a choir of white motes dancing sideways on a wind keening like rusted hinges. Within an hour, the distant ridges vanish under a gauzy scrim. Within two, the world outside the Great Wall's shadow turns to blank parchment, begging for ink. You and Unit 14 are digging lime out of pits, when Captain Sun strides across the yard, cloak already powdered. Storm Signal 3, he shouts. Secure kilns, cover mortar, and pray your ancestors wove thick socks. He rarely chokes, which means calamity is certain. Zhang drops tally boards so fast, it sticks upright in slush like a tombstone. Orders ricochet off stone, lash down furnace lids, drag spare charcoal inside, hammer shutters over barrack windows. The first real gust slaps the camp, hard enough to topple a half stack of bricks near the goat pens. They do lunges to steady them. You grab rope, fingers instantly numb in wet mittens. Snowflakes mutate into icy shurikens, sting eyelids, and slip beneath collars. Old Wen lights an emergency torch and shouts instructions through a veil of sparks. His flame stretches sideways, horizontal as a road to some warmer province. Mortar mixing vat lids stick. You pry one free, splash quicklime onto boots. The hiss is immediate, but foot leather too frozen to care. Silver lining, if one likes painful irony. Liang hobbles, still nursing battered toes, yet hoists a clay lid bigger than his torso, and claps it over the last pit just before wind tears it away. Ahotep's rope team lashes the new iron sledge to a wall ring. Nobody trusts that hungry contraption not to slide into Mongolia during blizzard. When storm hits full stride, the valley below disappears. A white void swallowing ravines, goat paths, entire conversations. Snowdrifts stack against ramparts. Parapet crevices become miniature avalanches. Captain Sun declares outdoor work suicidal. Surviving the night is now priority one. Inside barracks, men cram together like rice in sticky buns. The room darkens as snow coats window slits, muffling wind but stealing light. Merritt improvises dinner from whatever hasn't frozen solid. Lumps of sorghum mashed into fist-sized dumplings, boiled in barely liquid broth. Steam fogs the rafters. Ice on beards melts into hopeful puddles. General Whiskers appears on a beam, tail flicking disdainfully at weather. Even rats dislike wet fur. Zhang, the once whipless, distributes charcoal, barely, 3 scoops per heart. Yet he fidgets, staring at a lockbox on his desk. The monthly pay ledger, containing vouchers redeemable for rice, cloth, or the pipe dream of passage home. Rumor says Eunuch Inspector Ren will return next week to sign off wages. Without ledger, Ren signs nothing. Ahotep sees Jang's worry and whispers to you, ledger is parchment. Parchment fears water. Lightning of mischief sparks in his eyes. Perhaps imagining imperial payroll melting into papier-mâché. You're too cold to indulge sabotage fantasies, but you note the thought. Night clamps down. Wind ululates around ears. Shutters rattle like dice. A desperate gamble. You volunteer for first interior watch. Torch in hand, pacing corridor, while others sleep huddled. Torch sputters, casting jittery demon shadows over walls. Every gust squeezes smoke back down chimney. Stinging eyes. Somewhere in dark, a man whimpers. A nightmare of bricks, maybe. Or of mothers who won't recognize sons returning, stooped and lime-scarred. Second watch. Daydew relieves you. You curl by hearth. Back to embers. Half dreaming of home rice patties thawing in spring. A roar splits air, timber snapping. Shouts. You bolt upright. Snow weight has cracked stone shed roof. Wind drives shards into courtyard like thrown tiles. Captain Sun organizes a bucket line, not for fire, but for snow, handed in through window gaps to quench embers that threaten collapse. Even catastrophe becomes resource. Snow as extinguisher, as mortar coolant, as improvised drinking water tomorrow. During chaos, no one notices Jang sneaking toward office chest. Old Wen spots movement, nudges you. Through swirling snow, you glimpse Overseer wrestling with lockbox, then disappearing behind supply hut. You trail from distance, torch shield. Behind hut, Dong digs frantically in drift, ice up to knees. He buries lockbox beneath snow, packs it tight, perhaps believing cold, safer than collapsing roof. As he returns, you cover footprints, quick kicks of powder. Morning arrives, disguised as dull gray glow behind snow curtain. Storm still rages, but hunger drags people away. Merritt's cauldron is missing, about 3 meters away. Half filled with blizzard, lid gone. Breakfast becomes chewing icicles, flavored with last night's charcoal smoke. Inspector Ren will not reach wall in this storm, yet anxiety about ledger spreads. Zhang pretends to search, announces box mislaid during roof incident. Panic simmers. Men fear unpaid funds. Liang whispers that snowdrifts swallowed fortunes and testimonies alike. By midday, winds slacken. Shoveling parties carve tunnels between huts. You volunteer for search detail. Officially hunting stray tools, but truly scouting for lockbox. Ahotep accompanies. Rope around waist in case of slide. Behind supply hut, drift stands waist high. You probe, find iron edge. Together you excavate box, drag it indoors. Lid iced shut. Torch thaw reveals parchment inside soaked, ink bleeding. Pay records blur into abstract art. Decision time. Report or conceal? Daydew joins council by smoldering brazier. Consensus. Reveal disaster, but blame blizzard, not Zhang. Better to be victims than saboteurs. Captain Sun accepts, story grim-faced. He values survival over bookkeeping. Zhang says nothing. Eyes hollow. Perhaps relieved guilt. Now communal. Ren arrives. 3 days later. Sedan skids on muddy snowmelt. He inspects ruined ledger, sighs dramatically, then proclaims a clerical miracle. Fortunately, double copy exists in capital. Relief and groans mingle. Wages delayed, not vanished. Zhang kisses snow, pledging stricter document protection. You exchange smirks with Ahotep. Sometimes nature completes sabotage nobody dared. That evening, storm memory lingers. Barracks hum with tails spinning. How roof crash sounded like thunder dragons. How dumplings tasted of heroism. How Ledger tried to hibernate. You sip watery brew, savor calm. Frost characters on parapet likely gone. Washed clean, ready for new poems. Maybe tomorrow. Before sleep, you step outside. The world gleams. Snow drapes wall like new silk robe. Moonlight reflects, blinding yet beautiful. General Whiskers bounds across surface, leaving tiny hieroglyphs. In distance, wolves howl, not hunger tonight, but perhaps applause for Storm's artistry. You inhale air sharp as chisel tip and smile despite cracked lips. Blizzard buried wages, but also buried bricks of fear. Men saw Walden, saw Overseer panic, saw themselves endure. In that snow-packed silence, they learned power of collective shovels and whispered counsels. Day will come or not. Wall will rise or crumble. But for now, camaraderie stands tall, taller than the great wall under its glittering white cloak. Back in warm gloom, you drift to sleep with thought. Snow is only frozen water, and water, given time, carves its thirst. So too may workers' quiet stubbornness carve pathways through edicts, valley boards, and painted eunuch spines. Dream follows. Wall melted to river, bricks floating downstream, carrying frost poems toward distant, gentler seas. The wall's fresh snow coat lasts all of 2 dawns before hoofprints mar its pristine shoulder. At first, they appear as a single set of crescents near Wolf Pass, so light even Captain Sun doubts his own eyes. By mid-morning, scouts report 5 more tracks, deeper, accompanied by circles of ash and broken reeds where small fires once crackled. No bodies, no banners, only the unmistakable signature of riders testing border nerves. Overseer Zhang reacts as one might expect. Double brick quotas, triple patrol shifts, and a sermon on how lax mortar lines lure barbarians the way spilled sugar lures ants. Scribes add a new horn signal, 3 quick blasts, to warn of arrows incoming. You find the notion oddly polite, as though Mongols will pause mid-charge, wait for musical introduction. Unit 14's assignment is fortification assurance, a bureaucratic phrase meaning you carry heavy things quickly while pretending calm. The Kilns rage again, thanks to an emergency mandate for reinforced merlins. Old Wen returns to line duty, still eyebrow bald, but now sporting a bandana decorated with charcoal dragon to keep ash from scalp. Dedu and Liang join rope teams hauling stone facing slabs up newly iced ramps. You are redirected to mortar mixing. Hot, exhausting, yet near lower courtyard, where arrow range is allegedly shorter. Heat radiates from lime cauldrons, steam curling with a fresh air like incense to a nervous deity. The mixing bucket, bronze monster big enough to bath an ox, sits halfway between kiln and ramp. 2 men shovel quicklime, 2 pour water. You wield the oar-sized paddle. Stir it until slurry thickens to the consistency of angry porridge. Every plunge sends caustic flecks into air. You squint, eyelashes sticky with alkali tears. Yet, compared to snow patrol, scalding lime feels almost therapeutic. The first arrow arrives just after noon, silent and therefore almost theatrical. It slices past your ear with a sigh, plunges point first into the mixing bucket, and disappears beneath gray froth with a hiss. Metal meeting chemistry. You freeze, paddle mid-stroke. Heart stutters like misfired kiln bellows. Shovel man Yao yelps, dropping spade. Water carrier Renly ducks so hard his bucket splashes ankles, which promptly fizz. A moment of disbelief hangs, fragile as frost lace, that horn blasts once, twice, thrice. Alarm code, newborn yet already essential. Captain Sun's shout follows. Arrows! Shields up. Soldiers scramble to battlements. Bricklayers dive behind stacks. Zhang appears, switching between rage and panic, as though both might deflect projectiles. You stare at Bucket, where Arrow vanished. A faint plume of steam rises like a ghost. Curiosity, unwise yet irresistible, bends you forward. The shaft protrudes inches above surface, feathers already fur-eaten by lime. You yank it free. Barbed tip, black fletching, unmistakably step-made. The lime crust now encases metal, turning lethal craft to chalky artifact. Somehow this feels like prophecy. More arrows clatter along wall face, thudding into snowbanks, splintering against bricks. The attackers remain hidden beyond ravine, using terrain with swirling ground haze as curtain. Return fire is sparse. Sun's garrison has limited bolts after budget cuts. He orders archers to conserve. Stone throwers load sling stanchions with ice chunks instead. The siege becomes a strange duet. Invisible bows launch wooden questions. Wall replies with frozen stones that whistle downhill before shattering tree branches. Your duty, however, is neither archery nor heroics, but mortar. Zhang reappears, eyes wild, keep mixing. Wall eats arrows easier once more torsos. He gestures at Bucket scarred by projectile river baptism. You resume stirring, adrenaline blending fatigue into new pace. Each arrow that thuds nearby vibrates paddle in your grip. Yao mutters prayers. Renly weeps quietly because lime burns her snow-drenched trousers. Sudden shout. Liang at ramp top collapses, clutching thigh. An arrow protrudes. Crimson already soaking bandage wraps. Dedu drags him behind stack. Cold wet abandons kiln to fetch snow for compression. Captain Sun signals medics. Two lads barely old enough for beard. They haul Liang down, his face waxy but composed. He jokes Arrow only sought the warmest goes on wall. The mixing bucket empties faster than shovels can fill. Arrows puncture water jugs. Lime steam mingles with panic fog. You improvise shield, with kiln lid propped against rain, stirring from side like awkward potter. An arrow clangs off lid, ricochets into stone, showering sparks. You laugh, hysterical perhaps, because sparks and snow look absurdly festive. Yao joins laughter until Zhang screams that humor wastes calories. Then, silence. No arrows, no horn. 5 breaths. Then, Captain Sun peers over Crenell. A single horseman emerges on an opposite ridge, waving crimson pennant with tiny gold emblem. A falcon clutching lotus. A message, not assault. He plants lance into snow, pivots horse, vanishes. Immediately Sun orders ceasefire. Morale buckles under confusion. Mongols rarely brandish bouquets. Envoys exchange ritual gestures across valley. Soldier hoists white cloth on pike. Distant riders respond with mirrored white flash. Sun dispatches 2 runners through Sally Gate, unarmed, to retrieve lance message. Tension thickens. Mortar crew halts. Even Kilns crackle softer, as if eavesdropping. Runners return carrying scroll, sealed with dark wax and tied to falcon feather. Sun breaks seal, reads, eyebrows climbing toward helmet ring. He strides to Zhang, thrusts scroll. Overseer's face drains. Minutes later, a bell clangs. Not alarm, but assembly. Workers gather courtyard, trembling from cold and dread. Zhang mounts barrel podium. Message from Steppe Warlord states no immediate attack. He announces, voice quavering. Murmurs ripple. They claim arrows, fired only to prove our vigilance remains. Functional. Sarcasm lost neither on him nor audience. He continues. They propose trade. Bricks for horseshoes, lime for leather. Laughter erupts. Nervous, incredulous. In 2 days, emissaries will parley at Midpoint Valley. You exchange stare with Dedu. For years, Wall-defined enemy, now enemy, offers business deal. Old one growls, barbarians want warm mortar for their yurts. Liang, leg-bound, suggests perhaps they simply enjoy chaos. Captain Sun declares preparations. No hostility, but defense ready. Zhang demands double brick output to demonstrate strength. Groans answer, arrows hardly motivational. Work resumes under uneasy ceasefire. Shovel rhythm returns. Battle churns. Yet conversation shifts from fear to speculation. Trade soften royal quotas. Provide scarce horse hides. Bring news from distant provinces. Even Inspector Wren, arriving late with bandaged ledger, looks intrigued rather than horrified. At dusk, snow ceases. Western sky blushes amber. Broken arrows litter yard, sticking from drifts like porcupine quills. Soldiers collect shafts, some barbs still lethal, others encased in lime. Souvenirs of strangest half-siege. You pocket one lime-coated tip as talisman. Chalk armor over iron thread. Evening meal sees stew enriched with wolf jerky. Captain Sun's hunting parties made use of storm downtime. Liang limps in, arrow removed, cleansed with beiju. He grins drunk on both relief and liquor fumes. Story circles, brazier, arrow into bucket, saved ramp, because lime absorbed force. Gods disguise protection as peril. Ehotep dubs bucket, shield cauldron, vows to paint emblem tomorrow. Before sleep, you climb parapet. Moon now full, silvering valley. Lance still planted on ridge, pennant fluttering gentle. You imagine steppe fires beyond, riders sipping mare's milk, debating wall workers' courage. Perhaps they laugh at arrow and bucket tale too. Shared absurdity bridge, culture's bricks cannot. General Whiskers appears beside boot, sniffs lime arrowhead, sneezes chalk cloud. You scratch his ear, he purrs gratitude or indigestion. Back in barracks, torch burns low. Dedu sketches falcon emblem on scrap, merging with great wall silhouette. Future flag of improbable peace. You stash arrow tip under straw mat, next to frost poem secrets. Sleep descends lighter than blizzard, though dreams split between trade tables laden with bricks and sudden twin sounds. Thunk of arrow, hiss of lime, heartbeat of possibility. The wall still stands, arrows still fly, but mortar now binds curiosity with stone. An alloy, perhaps sturdier than fear. Night settles over the wall, like ink poured onto parchment, cooling in every mortar groove, and washing away the day's peculiar truths. The proposed parley with the steppe riders is set for tomorrow at high sun, yet the camp hums with unrest louder than kiln roar. Pocket rumors plume. Some whisper that the warlord's envoys will bring silver bits stamped with constellations. Others insist the riders will seize hostages the instant gates swing open. Neither story matters to Unit 14, because your wages are still delayed. Your backs still ache like cracked roof tiles. And Overseer Zhang has just ordered an all-night brick tally to impress potential partners. By moonrise, every man able to balance numbers, or at least carve chicken scratches on bamboo, is hunched over stacks of inventory slips. Cold seeps through shutters, turning fingertips to brittle twigs. You sit cross-legged in Zhang's cramped office, Dedu at your side, counting bricks you carried last week. Each figure you utter is dutifully inflated by 20% before Zhang's trembling brush commits it to parchment. Not even he pretends honesty will help. Liang, leg still stitched, calculates livestock. Old Wen lingers near kiln ledgers, rewriting totals so outrageous the ink blushes. Captain Sun paces outside, half amused, half resigned. Soldiers know paperwork wars can kill as effectively as arrows. Sometime after the second hour of the raft, the brazier spits its last spark. Merritt arrives with a bucket of thin rice wine for stamina, and bread pellets so dry they squeak between teeth. The wine fogs minds just enough to let gripes drip from lips unchecked. Ahotep emerges from behind bales of straw, lantern in hand, whisper summoning usual malcontents. You follow him to the half-collapsed kiln shed where wind can't eavesdrop. He sets lantern on an overturned mortar tub. Its paper sides glow dandelion gold and paint everyone's faces a conspiratorial amber. Our leverage peaks tonight. Ahotep begins, voice soft as frost. Ledger's alive, Harley lose, and Eunuch must approve numbers at dawn. If we want anything, extra rations, rotation off goat track, real crossbow strings. We must force acknowledgement before scrolls fly to Beijing. Old Wen snorts, easier to melt the wall with teardrops. But others lean forward. Liang's eyes gleam above bandaged leg. Dedu scratches chin, calculating odds. Ahotep unfolds a parchment. Crude schedule of watchfires along rampart. We dim half the lanterns for 2 hours, he says. In Valley, it looks as though a breach opened. And negotiators hesitate. Our officers sweat. And we restore light only after Captain Sun signs our demands. It is sabotage so gentle, it borders on courteous. No bricks toppled, no arrows loosed, merely turning down wicks. Yet the risk is execution for treason. If Eunuch Inspector Wren interprets dimmed lights as conspiracy with barbarians, debate ignites. Yao argues wall security sacred. Wen counters that starving masons cannot build fortresses. You weigh fear, a familiar yoke, against the improbable thrill of agency. Finally, Dedu turns to you. We need Torchmaster. Who knows parapet roads? You gulp rice wine that tastes of wet hay and realize they nominate you. The lime bucket survivor, arrow collector, recent night watch veteran. Your nod feels like a stone tossed off cliff. Irreversible and strangely weightless. Plan crystallizes. Lanterns along North Bastion through Mulberry Tower will dim at the hour of the ox. Just after midnight, when patrol rotation thins, 2-man teams handle every third station to avoid obvious pattern. Signals, single knot on stone. Restore light after exactly 1 hour unless horn blares thrice. Enemy real. Or Zhang's switch cracks thrice. Necks online. Demands etched on scrap from ruined pay ledger. Double charcoal. Weekly rest day. Removal of goat track sledge until rails installed. And honest accounting, supervised by a rotating worker council. Liang giggles at that laugh clause. Honesty in Zhang's books, but hope fuels ink. Execution begins with deceptive calm. You and Dedu exit. Kiln shed carrying lantern maintenance kit. Oiled paper, bare wicks, nothing suspicious. Snow reflects half-moon glow, granting just enough light to navigate Crenellations. Wind hushes, as if the sky itself wants to listen. At first post, 2 conscripts doze by brazier. Dedu offers wine for warmth. They oblige, lids drooping. You pinch wick with metal claws, reducing flame to timid ember. Viewed from valley, lantern shrinks to sickly star. 1 down. Second station proves tricky. Fresh guard away, polishing spear. Liang, limping but determined, distracts him by limping hard, begging rag for wound. While guard fetches bandage, you tilt lantern chimney. Smoke clogs glass. Brightness dwindles. Guard returns none the wiser, lecturing Liang on hygiene. Third and fourth lights fade similarly. Adrenaline fizzes. Each success stokes giddy terror. Somewhere cranes cry, echoing like distant horns. Half hour in, pattern emerges. Every few yards, darkness stitches gap in light chain. From valley vantage, wall now appears moth-eaten. Captain Sun, patrolling south sector, will notice soon. But Captain Sun, Ahotep predicted, honors chain of command deeply. He'll first rouse Jang. That buys 15 minutes. You approach Mulberry Tower, last dim target, when a figure blocks path. Inspector Wren, scroll tucked under arm, cheeks red from cold, or why, you cannot tell. He squints. Lantern maintenance at this hour? Your tongue freezes. Dadu answers, ordered by Overseer, sir. Reducing glare before emissary arrival. Causes illusions in snow. So says Master Jean. Bless Dadu's quicksilver lies. Wren harumphs. Scribble's note you hope reads, Zhang innovated, rather than workers suspicious. He waddles away, muttering about glare on silk robe embroidery. Lantern dims behind his back. Mission complete. Now the waiting. You crouch inside the tower stairwell. Pulse hammering earthquake rhythms. Minutes drip. Snowflakes swirl through arrow slits. Dancing around lantern smoke, like rebellious ghosts. From courtyard drift, muffled voices rising. Zhang discovered blackout. His shouts carried around. You make out saboteurs and parley shame. Horn does not sound. No enemy yet. Good. Jang storms parapet, accompanied by Captain Sun and 2 torchbearers. They eyeball dark gaps. Zhang rages for full reading. Sun counsels caution. Could be lantern oil congealed, he suggests. Zhang demands immediate relight anywhere, exactly per scheme. Several gaps remain uncorrected. As your team's weight demands. Ahotep appears, scroll held high. He approaches Sun, speaking calmly. We can reignite within breaths. But here is first. Zhang raises switch. Sun blocks him, orders explanation. Ahotep reads demands. Zhang sputters threats. Sun listens. Ice wind slices. The tension burns hotter than Kilns. Finally, Sun nods once. Charcoal. Possible. Rest day. Maybe. Go track. Engineering will review. Books. Council may witness inventory. Jiang protests. Sun silences him. Better negotiation than revolt. Wall already has enemies enough. Signal agreed. You knock stone twice. Lanterns reignite as if night itself flicked on. From valley, the wall rethreads silver spine, strong and unbroken. Ren appears again, applauding vision of restored vigilance. Zhang Claire staggers, but sheaths switch. Victory smells of lamp oil and terror's aftertaste. Down in courtyard, Sun convenes scribe, records provisional treaty between overseers and labor council. Charcoal ration increases by dawn. Rest day scheduled after parley. Goat track sledge to be refitted with timber rails. For diplomatic appearance, Jen rationalizes. You sign name with lime-scarred thumbprint. Pulse fluttering hummingbird fast. Later, in barracks, the council toasts with lukewarm millet beer. Liang hoists mug despite thigh ache. Old Wen composes haiku. Lantern breath withheld. Stone spine misses heartbeat. Then, new light, workers blink. General Whiskers licks spilt foam, perhaps believing himself founder of movement. You retire to nap. Arab talisman cool beneath straw. Outside, lanterns now blaze steady. But you notice each carries a small soot mark, a memento of withheld flame. You close eyes imagining tomorrow parley. Bricks stacked as gifts. Horse hides smelling of distant grasslands. Eunuch robes fluttering like uncertain flags. Yet you feel curiously fortified. The wall, built to divide. Night bridged men across hierarchy by simple manipulation of darkness and light. Sleep creeps in on padded feet. You dream of lantern constellations forming characters. Rest, warmth, dignity. They float above a wall, visible to both dynastic throne and steppe campfires. Spelling truths neither whip nor arrow can entirely erase. 2 hours before dawn, the parley banners rise above the valley, like bright moons in the ash-blue sky. One crimson, stitched with the Ming dragon coiling about a peony. The other sable, bearing a silver falcon, clutching a broken bow. They hardly flutter, or even the wind holds its breath over what comes next. Somewhere behind you, in the shadowed courtyard, Overseer Zhang rehearses welcoming speeches he will never deliver correctly, each sentence varnished with flattery, thick as fresh mortar. Captain Sun sharpens the dress sword he hopes he will not need, its edge scraping stone in slow, deliberate strokes that sound like distant thunder. You have been up since the rat hour, hauling ceremonial bricks, fired with extra kaolin to gleam ivory under the sun, onto a low platform outside the north gate. It is meant as a gift, the bureaucrats say, a subtle way of announcing, see how effortlessly we fashion even beauty from stone. Your arms throb from lifting them. Beauty, apparently, weighs the same as regular bricks. The wall itself seems unsure how to feel. After last night's lantern revolt, its lines glow steadier but softer, as if relieved that men, rather than fear, maintain its vigil. Frost still rims each crenel, but the hush in the mortar, the slight timbre tap of Merlin with knuckles, tells you the storm tension hasn't drained away. Even your lime-bitten lungs feel less tight, as though the valley air has declared a temporary truce with breathing. Arrival of the envoys, the sun climbs, spilling diluted gold over ridges, and at precisely mid-morning, a column of riders slinks from the tree line, barely 20 of them, more shadow than army, steppe horses with winter coats, riders in quilted felt, conical helmets crowned with raving feathers. At their head trots a single gray stallion, bearing a man draped in sable cloak, long plaids bound in silver hoops, eyes visible beneath half mask of beaten iron. You wonder why leaders always hide behind symbols, robes, scrolls, towers, and their hearts surely pound like any masons. Grand Chamberlain Yao Shuhu emerges first from the gatehouse, flanked by 2 parasol bearers, and refusing to step onto mud without a silk rug beneath each slippered foot. He spreads arms in a gesture meant to convey hospitality. From your angle it resembles a heron trying to take flight, but tied to a pond. Captain Sun follows, armor polished, until morning glare flashes off every plate, hand resting on sword hilt and muscle memory. You and Dadu, disguised as brick attendants, hover near the ceremonial platform, mortar spatulas hidden under red sashes. Liang sits on a stool behind stack, injured leg propped as plausible reason not to kneel. Old Wen stands at Kilns' smothered brazier, simmering spiced tea to perfume the frigid air. The council's demands, charcoal, rest day, rhoda oversight, hang unsaid but heavy. Today must not unravel them. When the 2 parties meet halfway, a hush falls, so absolute you swear you can hear snow melt. Gao bows, fluid despite layered robes. The falcon-masked warlord inclines head, just enough to prevent feathers from drooping. Translators step forward, 1 Chinese, 1 Mongol, each repeating courtesies, sound brittle in icy air. The agenda unfolds like bamboo strips. First, mutual exchange of symbolic gifts. Second, negotiation of trade quantities. Third, confirmation of border terms. Fourth, the scribe's note in small characters. Issue of sporadic arrow testing to be resolved. You resist laughter. Sporadic indeed. Gifts for proceed smoothly. Gao presents ivory bricks, each etched with lacquer dragons chasing a pearl of harmony. In return, the warlord's aide unrolls a felt carpet embroidered with constellations you have never seen, stars mapped as silver knots among midnight thread. You can almost smell steppe grass woven into it. Then truth begins, chisel and ceremony. Gao unfurls redundancy of production numbers, exaggerated by Shang's midnight arithmetic, claiming the wall will reach next ridge within 2 moons. The warlord counters in measured voice, hinting his scouts have counted fewer carts than scroll suggests. Gao blushes under powder. Sun's jaw clenches. You feel air stiffen like quick lime about to set. That's when Ahotep makes his move. Under guise of adjusting the brick display, he steps onto platform, lifts one ivory block high, and shouts, "We gift stone, but with cracked backs. Let there be full light upon labors." Every head turns. Zhang sputters. Gao's fan freezes mid-flutter. The warlord shifts, intrigued. Ahotep spins brick, etched on underside, in charcoal strokes. 1 rest a day, each week. Agreed among workers and captains. Gasps bloom. Zhang lunges too slow. Captain Sun raises hand, halting commotion. Gao's eyes narrow, the slits thin as paper cuts. Murmurs ripple through garrison lines. Sun speaks into hush. The men request humane schedule. Loyal backs build stronger walls. His tone neutral, yet carrying more steel than his sword. Gao calculates political angles. You see abacus beads flipping in his gaze. Revolt risk, imperial deadlines, personal reputation. Finally, he addresses warlord. Even jade cracks have struck too often. An olive branch disguised as proverb. The warlord studies you, truly you. The line of laborers behind bricks, eyes softening behind mask. In my camp, he says via translator, horses rest each 6th sun. Men should not fare worse than beasts. He gestures feathers toward Ahotep. Agreement floats like visible breath between foes. Gao sighs, as though releasing 2 months held tension. He nods to scribe. Condition accepted, pending imperial seal. Thunderous silence again, then cheers erupt. From masons, from soldiers, from even Shang's assistant. Probably has overtime corn calluses. Zhang looks ready to faint, but bows. Ink, flame, and unwritten lines negotiations resume on smoother snow. Quantities of lime and leather, brick and horseshoe are tallied. You return to mixing bucket, this time stirring tea for envoy cups. Old Wen's specialty of wolfberry, ginger, and regret. Liang scribbles inventory on fresh ledger pages. Thick parchment Ren procured after Blizzard drowned originals. You catch Ren smiling. Delays justify new trip allowance. Mid-afternoon, treaties drafted, both sides sign. The warlord presses Falcon seal into wax. Gao signs with brush, tipped in gold ink. A gust flutters papers. You leap to pin them. Reflex of man, who knows how easily wind steals labor. The warlord notices arrow tip you wear on cord. Absent, speak softly. Wall and step, same iron, and different. You nod, though translation lags. Perhaps understanding needs no grammar. Envoys depart before dusk. Banners folding as shadows stretch. Feeling in camp mixes relief with anticlimax. Like breath released after carrying brick staff, only to find platform empty. Captain Sun orders feast from Merritt's meager larder. Turnip stew thickened with new trade goat fat, plus fermented mare milk offered by riders. It tastes like rebellion, kissed by yogurt. Ledger of the soul night deepens in navy layers. Lanterns remain bright. No need for dark protest. But their soot marks linger as freckles of memory. In Zhang's office, new ledger lies open. Council representatives, including you, stand while Ren dips brush to record first honest tally. Charcoal ration double. Rotation schedule 8. Goat track sledge flagged. Pending reds. Jang signs. Handshaking, yet obedient. Ahotep presses thumbprint, hardened by roped ferns next to ornate seal. Page looks lopsided, but perfect. Inside, snow begins again. Gentle, baptizing ledger with chill fragrance. Workers gather around brazier. Dedu sings soft frontier ballad. Others hum along. Liang produces felt carpet star map. They trace constellations, renaming brightest for inside jokes. Kiln, whip, rat rice. Laughter rises, mingling with drifting flakes until it becomes something like prayer. Old Wen approaches you, eyebrowless face glowing. He hands a small box carved from broken sledge wood. Inside rests your lime-coated arrow tip and a folded scrap of parchment. Liang's Frost-Bitten. Stone holds. Ink remembers. Wen says, keep. Chest tightens. You tuck box inside coat. Weight slight. Significance heavy as wall itself. Later, you climb parapet alone. Valley sleeps beneath silver hush. Wolves howl distant harmony. From step side burns a line of tiny fires. The riders camp, not retreat but vigil. Their flames wink like conspiratorial eyes. You kneel at parapet stone. Pry mortar plug you once hid poem in, and slide arrow tip beside poem. Two artifacts of conflict sharing pool of lime. Mortar back in place, you pat stone. The wall's heartbeat thrums through palm. Steady, unfathomable, yet slightly warmer than weeks before.